This is the kind of movie you're making. So as I'm sitting there in my chair and it's his close-up, this is the clip they're going to show at the Oscars. In theory. And he's going, you ungrateful, unctuous. As he's talking to me, he's pointing with his finger at table level for me to get closer to the mat box. It's almost like his head and his arms weren't even connected. Yeah. Like this guy's doing an Oscar-nominated scene.
He's giving his Oscar speech while also...
He's doing his Oscar speech, but he's going, you got to get closer to the mat box. You're too far away. He's going he's pointing you got to move over. Like when you take a picture with a group and you tell everybody to scrunch in, how you wave with your finger and your hand go. And he's doing it, but he does it for a page. And I don't know if I should look down. I know he's doing something with his hands, but for all I know, that's some character work he's figured out. So he's giving his Oscar speech and he's waving with his hands, but this is my first movie. For all I know, he's doing some hand take work that he's worked out for his character. Like when his character gets fired, he gets a nervous tick. Yeah. He freaks out. Oh my God.
Jerry gets Tourette.
Yeah, he gets Tourette. Oh my God, I'm getting fired. Like maybe he's fanning himself. And he's got this incredible dialogue oh my God. And basically he's saying everything that he's taught me. And he's going, crowded restaurants, so there's no scene. And he's waving, get over, closer to the mat box. And he goes, public place. Oh my gosh, you ungrateful. He's waving his arm. Unctuous. And I go, you did this to yourself. And he goes, and he's waving his arm. Finally, I look down at his hands and I see what he's doing. And he goes, I want all my clients. And I put my head up against the mat box. And as he's talking, he gives me an okay sign. Chest high. Literally a half inch out of frame.
Get the fuck out of here.
If the frame is between his collarbone and his nipples, he gives me the okay sign right above his nipple. He knows where the fucking frame is in the middle of it. He goes over, move over, you ungrateful. Oh, there you're at, boy. Now you're right. He's giving me the okay sign.
One of the most infamous takes in the 90s in cinema fucking.
But he's so cool a guy that he won't even go, hold on, could you get a little closer to the mat box for me?
He wouldn't throw you under the bus. Yeah,
He's just waving like a lunatic, and then he gives me the or attaboy. He gives me the okay, way to go.
Holy shit, man.
And he did stuff like that all the time.
So he was definitely a cool dude. I mean,
people give him a lot of shit, and I think the couch jump on Oprah and him arguing with Matt Lauer about not needing drugs for postpartum depression with Brooke Shields, I think didn't do him a lot of
South
good.
Park. I mean, he's got a kind of a crazy rep now.
The Scientologists are always going to take it. But when I worked with him, he was the coolest guy ever. It's like when people explain a college basketball coach that got their shit together and put them on the right path. Hey, man, if it wasn't for Bobby Knight, I'd be out stealing cars. I'd be doing drugs. That's how I feel about Tom.
Cruise,
I didn't know how to behave. I'm a lunatic. I still am. If my first movie was with a guy like James Woods, who screams at everybody and has tantrums,
you would have killed the hooker by now.
I would have been screaming at everybody on a set. But by working with Tom, he knew everyone's name. He knew a little bit about everyone, whatever was offered. He wasn't prying or creepy. And I would say to Tom Cruise when we were in the offices in the scene where I go, hey, is Cronin's okay for lunch? Yes, when Regina King goes in to complain to him. I go, my dad and you raced in the same race at Bridgehampton Raceway. My dad at the time was racing spec racer cars, and Tom Cruise was into his I'm going to race cars phase of his life too.
Days of Thunder, yeah.
So my dad and Tom Cruise were they were in the same race at Bridgehampton at Watkins Glen. They made the same rounds.
That's funny.
And Tom Cruise in this race put his car into a bale of hay coming around turn 2 at Bridgehampton. He couldn't handle it. He was going too fast and he crashed. And my dad jokingly said to me in Verona, New Jersey, on Valley View Road, goes, hey, when you're with Tom Cruise, ask him about when he crashed at Bridgehampton. Being funny. So I ask him. I go, you and my dad, because I need something to talk to him about. I mean, we're going to be together for 3 months, and I want to hang out with Tom Cruise. He's the coolest guy in the world. I go, you and my dad raced spec racers. And he goes, your dad's a racer? I go, yeah. And he goes, what kind? I go, modified. I forget what it was. Modified SCCA, Northern New Jersey, Pennsylvania. And he goes, and did you just say Bridgehampton? I go, yeah. He goes, I crashed at Bridgehampton. I go, I know. He told me to ask you about turn 2. And I think he wanted me to give you a little shit that you crashed at Bridgehampton. He goes, that's a tough track, man. That's a tough track, that second turn. You got this straight away. And I have no idea what he's talking about. I have no idea. Like, I watch my dad race. I don't know the intricacies of it, and I find it incredibly dull. I love NASCAR, and I like Formula One, but it's a bunch of 44-year-old guys with bellies out there like, woo, did you see that? I beat my neighbor. Like, I don't really care. Unless I'm in the car and I can run you off the road. Who cares? So Tom's like going, there's a straightaway and there's a tiny dog leg right. And you think you're straight for a little while, but it always sneaks up on you. They jam you right again. And it's way too tight a turn.
This is what, 20, how many years later?
Not that many. About 4 years after the fact.
Okay.
So we joke about that one day. A month and a half later, we are in Tempe, Arizona on the football field at Sun Devil Stadium. It's 2:00 in the morning. Tom Cruise is with Cuba Gooding Jr., and I'm with the guy that is my quarterback that goes, how come we don't have that kind of relationship?
Rival. Yeah.
And we're just sitting there in the tunnel, and then we're doing a scene out in the field. And Tom and I are about 30 feet away. We've shared a couple van rides. We're friendly, totally cool, nothing awkward whatsoever. Tom goes, JJ. And the only people that call me JJ are the people that know me like since I was a kid. Or like my friends, like you'll call me JJ now. Like you know me. Like Kevin will call me up and go, JJ, it's Kev. Like people that call me Jay are people that have read the headshot or read the name on the movie poster or on the marquee. But people that know, it's like when you see Magic Johnson, if you say Irv, he's fucking turning around.
Yeah.
Because the only people that call him
it's
Irv
his cousin or some shit.
is like Arsenio.
Yeah.
People that know him. And the rest of the world knows him as Magic. So everybody knows me as Jay. If someone says John, Jon to me,
you know it's someone you knew when you were fucking 5
it's
years
literally
old.
a neighbor, a teacher, or my wife, or my wife's mom. They'll call me John because they love the name John, Jon, or JJ. And Jay was always like a showbiz name. So when someone calls me JJ, my head snaps around because I'm like, oh my God, Danny Peterson's here? Like my Mike Monjovi? Like all my buddies are here. Todd Piper's here? So I hear, JJ. And I look, and it's Tom Cruise, and he's jogging towards me on the football. I'm in the end zone, and he's like in the tunnel, and he goes, and he's waving like, like hold on a sec, just don't move. Like I'm gonna run away in the other direction. Like no,
Please.
like you just play yakety sax as I run across Sun Devil Stadium. The day I didn't let Tom Cruise touch me. I go, what's up? And he goes, hey, what's going on, man? I go, nothing. And meanwhile, it's like 110 degrees at night.
At 2 in the morning?
We were shooting at night, and we're shooting that stadium scene. There's 30,000 extras. It's a muggy, as a bastard, laborious, long process. Keep cool. Keep drinking your fluids. And you're in a suit. And you got other guys, like Arena League football guys, that like whose job it is to make it look like the other guy got paralyzed. Like when Rod Tidwell does that flip to look paralyzed, you got to do like 40 takes of a guy almost getting paralyzed. It's very stressful. And Tom goes, JJ. And I go, what's up? Like, I'm like, what the fuck? He goes, how you doing? I go, good. And in my mind, I'm going, he's going to ask me to be in his next movie. He's having such a good time with me. Like, because everything has gone my way up until this point.
You're like Mission Impossible. There it is.
I've auditioned. I auditioned for Saturday Night Live. I got it. I got plugged into the Jeff Foxworthy show. I walked in. I got all the laughs. I got auditioned for Jerry Maguire. I got it. Done.
You're like, this is how it happens.
This is how it goes.
He's be his best friend.
I'm in the loop.
We're starting a company.
What's
together.
up? Come with me to the temple. We'll give you a stress test. Me and you, buddy. Road comedy. I'm in. I go, what's up? He goes, hey, what time was your call today? I go, 5. And he goes, you didn't work yet? I go, no. And he goes, man, that's bullshit. They should have bring you at 5. It's 2 in the morning. You didn't hey, ask your dad, what gear is he in when he goes into turn 2 at Bridgehampton? It's been making me nuts.
Get the fuck out of here.
I go, excuse me? He goes, your dad, Bridgehampton. I go, yeah. He goes, I'm assuming he didn't crash. I go, not at that turn, no. And I'm lying. I have no idea. For all I know, my dad rolled a car and came out on fire. He goes, ask your dad, do me a favor. Does your dad live here? I go, in Phoenix? He goes, sorry. In L.A.? Are they close? I go, no. He goes, what time is it where they live? I go, 5 a.m. He goes, all right. Later today, could you call your dad? I go, sure. He goes, he's John, right? I'm like, he fucking remembers my dad's name? I go, yeah. And he goes, John and Jeannie? I go, yeah. And he goes, that's great, man. That's great to still together. That's a big deal. You should celebrate that. I go, I do. He goes, but listen, do me a favor. Call your dad when you know he's awake. Just find out what gear he's in at turn 2. Because I'm in second gear, and I don't know how he could possibly take it in first gear. And now he just goes into gear speak, and I have no idea what he's talking about.
Is there any point of you that doesn't think he's real at any time? he seems too fucking amazing and nice, and you know what I mean? Like, is there any point of view in this entire process is like, come on, there's no way anyone is that perfect?
No, I think he's that perfect. And I met him briefly when Nicole Kidman did Saturday Night Live, and he was just sitting there with a Notre Dame hat on and a windbreaker with his arms folded like one of the guys. And he's a guy, like if he was single, he'd be your buddy that just goes out and fucking crushes ass. He's like a hot, fucking coolest straight guy you've ever met. Like he just sits there with his back against the wall, like, standing with my back against the record machine. He's fucking that guy. Like, go ahead and jump. Like, this guy would need a pussy helmet if he was just one of you and me. Like, he's not a guy. And I said at the time, and I'll say it again. If he was born in fucking Sandusky, Ohio, and pumped gas at a Shell station, he'd still be doing Mission Impossible. You cannot keep a man that radiant.
He's a force of nature. Yeah,
he's a force of nature that the only place for him to be is plugged into show business as a top-of-the-line guy. And he's not a self-destructive guy like a Kurt Cobain force of nature where you're like, Jesus Christ, this guy's going to hang himself one day. Yeah. He's a guy that's on top all the time. He's on top of his game. And I've heard subsequent stories when you read Rob Lowe's book, he's like, oh no, he tried to kill us. Like he tried to beat the shit out of us with the words on the page when we auditioned for Taps, when we all did, like he did Taps. And you watch him in Taps, it's fucking beautiful, man. Like he's that intense then. He's 15 fucking years old.
No, yeah.
I don't think I'd want that brain in my head at all times. It seems to be a little, I don't think he naps.
Yeah, right. He's memorizing people's parents' names and shit like that.
John and Jeannie, that's
that
great.
That must have blown your mind, dude.
But everyone that's ever worked with him says
the same thing.
He's the best. And you could show me 50 fucking couch jumps on Oprah and arguments about drugs, and he could be the highest level thetan. However Scientology works, he could be the highest level.
The OT level 14 or
you're
whatever.
Never going. He could be a 5th level mage on World of Warcraft. You're never going to strip from me how great that guy was to a guy that had no idea what he was doing. And that brings us full circle. I didn't know what the hell a podcast was. All I know is every guy that opened for me had one. And people would say, I enjoy your podcast when they're out in the lobby selling merchandise. Kevin Smith called me, gives me the miracle speech. You were born to do podcasts. If we do 10 podcasts, they don't listen 9 times. By the way, my Herb Brooks sounds like a mobster from Chicago.
It does sound a little...
Hey, when the fuck, you fucking dizzy prick, you? Kevin Smith took a shot on a guy that had no idea what he was doing. And that seems to be a recurring theme in my life. And that is when I have no idea what's happening or what I'm doing. I'm 40 years old. I'm a stand-up comic. I hope you come see me perform because that shit I take pride in. I'll tell you right now, it's as good as it gets. It's one of the few parts in my life where I have no compunction telling you, if you come see me live, it's as good as you'll ever see. I'm positive you won't see better. You might see as good, but like Jane's Addiction at the Ritz, 1991, that one concert where you go, damn, every other concert takes us back seat. That's me. I promise you. Put my name on it. Put your name on it. Be a man.
Or a woman.
Or a woman. That's all I said. Because you weren't in the locker room. Kevin Smith took a shot on me. And I thank you, Mr. Smith. And I thank you guys for listening to more stories. Because it's working out. Someone took a shot on a kid that had no idea what he was doing back then. And here we are 20, 30 years later, and it's happening again.
Except for the furnace that turned on in the background for the last 5 minutes.
Tom Cruise turned that on with his mind.
He was like, you guys are cold, I think.
Tom Cruise said, you know what? I'm not going to have He's the one that stopped the garbage trucks. For some reason, we've edited out a lot of garbage truck noise for you guys, but they're not stopping for anything. They're just having like Pinewood Derby races up and down my street.
The movie Duel is happening outside of the street with garbage.
We got ourselves a convoy. Keep on trucking, convoy, trucking through the night. I promise you guys, I am reading your hashtags, hashtag more stories on Twitter. That's why we got this entire long auditioning for Jerry Maguire story, but I hope you really liked it because I think it's cool. And the common theme in my life is when I don't know what the hell I'm doing, somebody reaches out and says, do it with me. Whether it's Tom Cruise or Kevin Smith, all the way after the fact. There's been a lot of bumpy things in between. Like next week's podcast, I'll break down my complex relationship with Jennifer Aniston.
Oh.
How unhappy she was when I got the part, the picture perfect.
That seems to be another trend too.